Summertime is the perfect time to start building the pond or lake of your dreams, or if you need to decide if property you own or thinking about buying is a good location to build a pond, then you need to contact Jeff Bagwell of Honey Hole Fisheries right here in Tuscaloosa. He also has top quality automatic fish feeders, aeration systems, and fountains. If you already have a lake, you can contact Honey Hole Fisheries and Jeff Bagwell at 205-799-0192. Once again, that is 205-799-0192, or check out honeyholefisheries.com. Contact Jeff Bagwell today to let him grow the lake or pond of your dreams. Coming up on this edition of the Stingray Show, we are going to be talking with a Hattiesburg, Mississippi native who took his talents to Mississippi State as he was a safety over there for the Bulldogs under Coach Dan Mullen, and also was on the number one team in the country back in 2014. Jay Hughes, the former Mississippi State Bulldog, will join us on this edition of the Stingray Show right here on Tide 100.9.
Hi, this is Tim Brando with a reminder. Those of you on Tide 100.9, look out. You're about to feel the buzz of Stingray.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
I'm Heath Hopkins. I'm here in DeSoto County, Mississippi, right outside of Memphis, Tennessee.
I don't know if you want me to get mad. I don't know if you want me to get mean. I don't know if you want me to get rowdy, but that's what I'm about to do. Worst defense ever! We are Mississippi State! Fear the Bills!
How many chicken wings you eat in a sitting? And you just look, ballpark it. 4. What?
4 chicken wings, my.
And Heath, any thoughts on our show moving forward?
Hey, to everyone in Tuscaloosa listening here on Tide 100.9. With the Stingray Show, if you don't like it, you better learn to love it, because it's the best show going today, baby. Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen of the West Alabama area, the Tuscaloosa Farmers Co-op, located in Northport, Alabama, has over 70 years of experience in feed, seed, and other gardening needs. If you guys are interested in picking up a couple of plants, flowers, or other gardening needs, as well as feed for livestock, then you need to check out the Tuscaloosa Farmers Co-op page on Facebook for all of the latest deals that they have going on, and their newest inventory is the Next Level golf cart to make all of your neighbors envious, and those are street legal as well. You can find Tuscaloosa Farmers Co-op on 4301 McFarland Boulevard over there in Northport, just west of the Highway 43 and 82 intersection. Go by and check out the Tuscaloosa Farmers Co-op for all of your farming needs. And guys, with all of that, we say welcome inside another edition of the Stingray Show right here on Tide 100.9. I hope all is well. And Heath, how are you doing, my friend?
Oh, brother, I am here and happy today. How about you, Stephen? How are you doing this evening?
Dude, I'm feeling fantastic, and I'm excited for our next guest, who we've been trying to get on for quite a while now. Now, he was a 2014 team captain. He was a NCAA convention representative up in 2015 and 2014 SEC Community Service Team. Ladies and gentlemen, please help us welcome to the Stingray Show the very talented safety from Mississippi State, Mr. Jay Hughes. Jay, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Doing fantastic. So where are you in life these days, my friend?
Well, I'm coaching high school football, living in Flowood, Mississippi, right here outside of Jackson. Coaching the safeties at Brandon. We went to the state championship last year. We came up short, and we actually lost to Starkville in the state championship game. So we're looking to make it back this year, and we're hoping for a good season.
Jay, I used to do play-by-play for the Yellow Jackets there in Starkville. And, Starkville kind of went through a drought there. They kind of came back, but Brandon's always been a strong program.
Yeah.
Do you see kind of a rivalry? I know South Panola and Starkville had a rivalry back in the early 2000s with each other. Are you kind of seeing that now with you guys there at Brandon High School in Starkville?
Yeah, well, down here, every game is a big game.
Of course.
You got Oak Grove, which is where I actually went to high school, in Hattiesburg. And then you got Meridian. They always play good football as well. And but we said this past season, if we did, get the chance to come back to the state championship game, we probably would meet Starkville again. So, that may be something that, may be a rivalry, going forward.
So, Jay, you grew up, like I said, down in the Pine Belt of Mississippi, down in Hattiesburg.
The Bird.
It all started for you.
Yep.
Who all was recruiting you out of high school? And did Southern Miss have any interest in you?
Yes. I got an offer from Southern Miss really early. My list was, I had Auburn, West Virginia, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Tulsa, Duke, and Vanderbilt were my offers. And what was I gonna say? The guy that recruited me to Mississippi State, my dad was actually on the coaching staff, when I was in high school.
Right.
And so, his whole thing was, hey, man, I'm not going to recruit you. I'm not going to tell you where to go to school. I'm going to let Coach Melvin Smith recruit you. So Coach Smith was the coach from Mississippi State that reeled me on in. So, but I had a good high school career. I switched high schools because at first my dad was coaching at Ole Miss under Ed Ogeron.
Right.
And so after we left Ole Miss, moved down to Hattiesburg, coaching under Larry Fedora.
Right.
And after Larry Fedora, in comes Dan Mullen. So I did my 9th and 10th grade year at Oxford High School, and I finished my 11th and 12th grade year at Oak Grove and Hattiesburg.
Right.
Now, Jay, your dad is a longtime college football coach.
Mm-hmm.
With that, you grew up around college football.
Mm-hmm.
Who was your first favorite player?
My first favorite player was Chris Leak.
Okay.
From Florida, the quarterback.
Yeah.
What I liked about him, because I was playing quarterback a little bit when I was in Oxford. And so I kind of looked at guys that had the same kind of body style that I had, and I wanted to kind of imitate those guys like that. And he was one of the first guys that I really liked, playing college football. Vince Young as well.
I got you.
So, Jay, a quick follow-up to that. You said that you had your dad coached up at Ole Miss with Coach O. Do you have any fun interactions that you could tell us with you and Coach O?
Oh, wow. Well, not personally with me and Coach O, together.
Right.
But my dad was telling me a story one time where they were out recruiting somewhere, and they were Coach O, he drove the Hummer.
Yes.
So he's in the Hummer and he's speeding, right? So they get pulled over, and he gets the ticket as soon as the patrol officer leaves. And this is my dad telling the story. As soon as the patrol officer leaves, he balls up the ticket, throws it back. I'm not paying that.
Oh, come on.
And I thought that was funny. Like as a kid, I'm like, okay, I see.
Jay, I gotta ask. I know you weren't there. Were they inside the state limits of Mississippi?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure.
You would think if Coach O's driving a Hummer, and we all know who Coach O is here in the state of Mississippi.
Right.
You know who the head football coach is. Yeah, if they get pulled over, you're like, oh, hey, coach. You just might let them on their way. But wow.
Right.
I'm kind of shocked he even got the ticket.
Right.
That's what, and I can hear Coach O. I'm not paying that.
But
Good stuff.
yeah, they kind of let me know what kind of guy we were working for at that time. So
Now, Jay, what is of all your playing experience? You're now coaching the game. Is it easier to play or is it easier to coach?
it's easier to play.
I bet,
Yeah,
because I'm sure it's hard to communicate that at times
yeah.
of what you see and everything. And of course, they don't have your knowledge of things yet. But with that being said, what's been the hardest thing about coaching so far, other than communication?
Um, the hardest thing for me would be kind of developing that personal relationship with the kids that
Mm-hmm.
you have to have in order for them to play really hard for you.
Mm-hmm.
The kids they got to know that you love them in order for them to go out and run and play as hard as they can. Um, and I kind of get caught up in the X's and O's. Hey, we got to be here. We got to crossover run right here. We got to break on the ball. We got to read the quarterback right here. I get a little bit too caught up in that sometimes, and I don't, really reel it back. So that's something I'm working on here going forward. Is just developing that personal relationship with
Mm-hmm.
kids, so that they know I love them, so that they can play that way on the field. Which is one thing that I had as well. Every time I played, every coach I played for, I felt like they really cared about me. So I would go out there and I'll play as hard as I could for them.
I'll let you steal this idea. And of course, it's a completely different level. I got elected to coach my 6-year-old daughter's all-star softball team. If you bring popsicles to practice, they immediately love you and they will play harder for you for a popsicle.
Okay, yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, still that one. And tell me how that turns out for you.
Okay. I'm gonna remember that. It's hot too.
So,
That's
Jay,
right.
in 2011, you got your first action in the Bulldog uniform versus Memphis at Memphis.
Mhm.
Talk about what the emotions were like when your number was called and what you remember most about that first action up there for Mississippi State.
Don't screw up. Redshirt freshman, first time you getting on the field in a college atmosphere. You're nervous. Don't screw up. Don't be the guy on the film that coach is putting a laser on.
Right.
Hey, you're supposed to be here, but you're over here, So that was kind of, and I was never the fastest guy. I was never the strongest guy on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I just always made sure I was where I was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to, help other guys get lined up, before the ball was snapped. And so that's kind of one thing that I pride myself on, just being in the right spot at the right time.
Right.
You were a coach on the field.
Right.
You beat them with your mind.
Right.
Gotcha. Go back. You were talking about recruiting a second ago and all the schools. What did you want to do coming out of high school? Did you know that you wanted to coach? Did you know that or thought you wanted to be a doctor? Like, hey, I should go to Duke because I can get into med school easy. I mean, what was it that you wanted to do coming out of high school?
Coming out of high school, I'll be honest when I say this. I'm just like every other kid. I wanted to go play football in the NFL. That was the one thing that I was thinking about, and not knowing the statistics of the whole thing. Like, hey, you actually got to have a job. You can't just do this the whole time. And so, one thing that I did want to do, I want to go to law school.
Okay.
And so when I got to Mississippi State, I majored in history.
Right.
So I majored in history, and after I graduated, of course, I had the little brief stint with the St. Louis Rams.
Mm-hmm.
But I just didn't want to go back to school at that point.
Right.
That was kind of up and down, like just trying to figure out what I want to do after the NFL. And coaching was just ultimately the thing that I was good at. It was something that I had seen. I understand the lingo. I understand how coaches, carry themselves. Yeah, law school was something that I thought I would be great at because my mom always said when I was small, she was uh like she'll be telling my brother something, and I'll say, "Hey, I got something to say," and she'll say, "No, this ain't your time to talk," and I'll say, "Well, I'm gonna say it anyway." and so and so with her saying that, she was like, law school might be something that may interest you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing that I wanted to do.
Gotcha. So later that season in 2011, you got your first taste of being a part of the Egg Bowl rivalry at home in a game which State won 31-3. What was your welcome to the Egg Bowl moment from that first game there in Starkville?
The first game in Starkville, um, it was kind of weird for me because I had been on both sides.
Mm,
Living in Oxford for 3 years and ultimately signing with Mississippi State to play football. I understood the seriousness of the rivalry, but it was just kind of hard for me to take it as seriously as everybody else because I know both sides are kind of like just fighting for the same thing.
right.
But it was a great experience, man. I think by the time I left Mississippi State, I had beaten Ole Miss twice and lost twice. So, it was kind of up and down, but the rivalry it'll never change.
Right.
People passionate about that, just like the Iron Bowl. Uh, they say the rivalries are like you don't like the person that's the most like you. So I
Right.
think both schools got a lot of things in common. So I just think that's probably why the rivalries are just always intense like that. But my experience, man, I just try to go out and play hard every time. No matter who it was or who we were playing against. Just playing hard was always my solution.
Jay, what's the funniest thing that's ever happened in the Egg Bowl rivalry? Did a fan say something to you? Did other players say something to you? Did someone say, "Hey, we're gonna throw over the top of you," and you show them up? What's something fun that happened in the rivalry with you?
Okay, so after we lost, this was the year they had the Feed Moncrief thing, and they put Coach Mullen up on the jumbotron, saying that we'll never lose to this team again.
Yeah, it
We'll
was the
never
first
lose
time
to this
Dan
team.
ever lost to Ole Miss. It was like
Right,
the fourth year that was at State. Yeah.
right. And so after the game, we're all pissed off, and of course there's some pushing and shoving or whatever. And I was kind of a hothead a little bit. I was kind of one of those emotional guys that'll do step out of character for a second. And so after the game, we're walking in the locker room, and of course they throw something down, popcorn down, and I just flipped the bird. I did it, Heath. I did it, and that was kind of
That's a shocker out of you, Jay. You were a high character guy.
yeah, yeah. But a game like that, man, the emotions are high.
Oh yeah.
It's hard sometimes just to stay in character, but that was kind of a funny moment for me that I actually got away with it. Nobody caught me on camera. Nobody came back and said, "Hey, look at the team captain flipping us off." So
Right. I got you. All right. Well, on that note, we are up against our first break with Jay Hughes. And when we come back, we are going to continue the interview with Jay Hughes about his Mississippi State career. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show right here on Tide 100.9. Citizens of West Alabama, have you heard about the new farmers market that's coming to Foster's? Yes, you heard that correctly. The Foster's Farmers Market is having its grand opening celebration on June the 10th from 7 a.m. until 12 noon at the Broughton Park under their brand new farmers market structure. There will be a ribbon cutting, door prizes, food, and so much more. For more information, follow the Foster's Farmers Market on Facebook or visit fostersfarmersmarket.com. They are still taking vendor applications if you want to sell fruits or vegetables there at Foster's Farmers Market. Once again, the grand opening celebration is June the 10th from 7 a.m. until noon at the Broughton Park. The Foster's Farmers Market hopes to see you there. Welcome back inside the Stingray Show right here on Tide 100.9. Our guest is former Mississippi State safety Jay Hughes, who hails from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And Jay, we were talking about before the break the 2011 season, but let's move to the 2012 season when you guys started off hot with a 7-0 record and then lost 5 of your last 6 to finish 8-5. What ultimately happened in the Alabama game? And in your opinion, what led to the collapse of that football team that season?
Alabama game. What was the you remember the final score to that game?
33-7, I think.
33-7. Yeah. When you go over and you play in Tuscaloosa, man, and you're not, it's just different.
Right.
It's just different. Like, they're not gonna make a mistake, so they're just waiting on you to make a mistake. Whether that's a blown coverage, whether that's a fumble or whatever it is, you just can't go over and make mistakes. And that day we just went over there and made too many mistakes. Special teams might not have been great that day. So that's probably what ultimately, led to our loss in that game.
Right.
As for the rest of the season, I think this was the year that we played snowball against Johnny Manziel, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was his coming out party that day.
Right.
Like America didn't know who he was, and he had a huge showing in Starkville that day, and then he took off. And
yeah, right. And from my experience, I'm still a young guy, in my mind. I'm a redshirt sophomore. I started off playing cornerback, and then they moved me to safety because I think Denias Timms ended up leaving the team or being suspended from the team. So I got a chance. Chris Wilson came in and said, Dad came in and said, hey, if you want a faster chance to play, we're going to have to move you to safety. Okay. And so that's when I made the transition from playing corner to playing safety. And so at this point, I'm just really fighting for playing time behind Nico Whitley and Corey Broomfield, and these two guys. And so in the Texas A&M game, and I just remember this, specifically, this was the first time that I actually got on the field on defense to, get a chance to make plays as a young guy. And, the rest of that season was kind of like my coming out season. For me, unfortunately, we weren't winning these games. But, I was taking all these losses on the chin as a young guy, which meant that it was helping me learn how to handle adversity as a player on the field. And so that's the experience I got out of that 2012 season, is that it was just like a little breakout year for me.
Right. So, Jay, you just mentioned it right there before about Johnny Manziel and coming out, having his coming out party to the SEC.
Yeah.
Discuss how difficult it was to defend him, and did you ever have a tackle in that game on him specifically?
I didn't tackle Johnny Manziel specifically. I ran him out of bounds.
a lot of people didn't.
Yeah. Right. Correct. In playing my position, you don't really have a whole lot of opportunities to
Right.
make tackles when you're playing back there at the back. Most of those tackles will be, open field tackles in the middle of the field on a running back or on a slot receiver or something like that. But he was just hard to contain that day. I think we were playing like we were rushing 3 defensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
They were just kind of staying upfield. They weren't really rushing because they didn't want to get too far field.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We step up in the pocket and take off. But game plan fell through, and like I said, Broomfield ended up getting hurt that game, which was the reason I came in.
Right.
And I remember they had a receiver, number 25, Swoop. I think that
Yeah.
made
Yeah, I remember
Right,
him.
Swoop. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I remember taking on a block with him. This is my first time, actually being engaged with the receiver in an SEC game. And he shocked and locked me. It kind of shocked me back a little bit. It's kind of like my little wake up moment. And you're like, okay, now I'm ready. Okay, now I know how hard these guys are going. I know what kind of intensity I need to play with. So yeah, man, that game right there. That they said we will never need to wear all white jerseys anymore.
Right.
Hey, how much was it of a trash talker was Johnny Football?
From what I remember, on the field with me, he didn't really say much, but because by the time I was on the field, there was nothing else left to be said.
Mhm.
Right.
Who was the biggest trash talker you ever played against?
The biggest trash talker I played against. Probably Jarvis Landry.
Yeah,
Probably Jarvis Landry.
from LSU, right?
Yeah. His senior year was the same season. No, this was his junior year. Was my sophomore year. And so we I think him and Odell, we went down there. Yeah, they had Spencer Ware playing running back.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he would go out there, he would make plays, and he would let you know that he was making a play. So then, it's different because as DBs, we're usually the guys doing all the jawing, on the field. But when a receiver is out there doing all the jawing, it can be a little bit more intimidating for a defensive guy. I guess it's whoever starts talking first would be be ahead of the game, so to speak. But yeah, probably Jarvis Landry.
So, Jay, let's move to the 2013 season, the Oklahoma State game. And unfortunately, that was a horrible game, physically wise, for you. What do you remember most about that game leading up to it? And then would you please walk us through what happened on that play that you were injured?
Yeah, this was my junior year at Mississippi State. So this was kind of like I become a leader on the team now.
Mm-hmm.
The young guys kind of look up to me a little bit. The coaches trust me, and that they know that I play hard. And so this game, I remember it being really, really fast paced.
Mm-hmm.
We started off really, really fast on defense. I think we ended up with two 3-and-outs or something like that. We stalled them maybe twice, and I remember it was a third drive. It may have been a third down play. Just went up for the ball. We were running a cover 3 concept,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm playing safety, so I have to step down into the hole in front of the slot receiver, and the other safety is going to the middle of the field behind me. So it's third down. I drop down to the sticks, go up for the ball, come down on that Achilles tendon. At first, it feels like a regular ankle sprain. When I stand up, it just feels like an ankle sprain. But as I try to run or take off or because it's third down, we're supposed to be off the field. I try to take off. I can't run anymore. I can't run off that leg, and so I just dropped. And at that moment, I already knew that it was something serious, especially if I couldn't walk.
Right.
Wow.
So, Jay, a quick follow-up to that. Walk us through the rehab process of someone who tears their Achilles, and were there any thoughts of you giving up on football?
To answer the last question, no.
Okay.
The process for an Achilles tendon tear, so sometimes a tear can be all the way through, or sometimes it can be partial. I think mine was almost all the way through, but just a little bit partial on the end. So it had kind of rolled up my calf muscle, the tendon rolled up. And so I went in and had surgery maybe 2 or 3 days later.
Mm-hmm.
Wore a cast for maybe 2 or 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I started to jog in the pool. So they had a treadmill underneath the water. And so I was jogging in the pool. Lots and lots of calf raises, single leg calf raises. And actually, the Achilles that I hurt, which was my right Achilles, is actually stronger than the Achilles that I didn't hurt because of all the rehab and all the reps that I put on it, in that moment in time. But yeah, our trainers, and I was a guy, I was still considered somewhat of a leader on the team. Like I was still traveling with the team, going to the away games.
Right.
Injured guys that are out for the season usually don't do that, or they don't allow them to do that. So I was still traveling with the team. And so, with that being said, I took my rehab process really seriously, just because, I knew my senior year was going to be coming up next year, the next year, and that I didn't know that I wasn't going to take that year back either, though. So.
Go, Stephen.
You sure?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. All right. The following season in 2014, the dream season for Mississippi State, you set the tone for that season with that blocked field goal and huge return against your hometown team in your return to action against Southern Miss because of your knee injury. What was that moment like for you to block the kick and have that amazing, huge return?
Yeah. I would be wrong to say that I did it by myself. Preston Smith was actually a guy that blocked the kick.
Right.
I was just a scooper and score guy. But that just goes back to me being in the right place at the right time. We had repped, this scenario many times. In training camp, hey, you're the scoop and score guy. If somebody blocks it, you'll be the first one there. And so, it's actually funny because me and Tavez Calhoun, who is a GA at Mississippi State right now, me and him were debating before the play started, like who's going to be the scoop and score guy, not knowing that the ball is about to actually come out. And so we're down. We're down in 3-point stance, and we come out. Preston blocks the ball, and as I'm going, it just falls directly in my hand. It's just, probably, one of my most favorite memories that I have in a uniform at Mississippi State.
Did you get real emotional when that happened for you, Jay?
Yeah. Because, I was a guy, like in high school, I would like those long touchdowns, like those 70-yard sprint type touchdowns. And so, once I got the ball in my hands, I just, was acting in my mind like I was an offensive guy, like, a receiver or something, running end zone. So, yeah, it was kind of an emotional moment for me.
Yes. Heath?
Yeah, I'm here.
You ready?
Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Jay, looking back at your career, what's the most fun you had?
The most fun would probably be Friday nights in a hotel.
Okay.
Before the game on Saturday.
And so what's going on at the hotel before a game on a road game or at home?
Milkshakes,
Mm-hmm.
movies, card games, dominoes, jokes, laughing, fun.
Right.
It's just kind of like a little wind down moment before we get serious and lock in. And so that team bonding time is really that time where you develop relationships with your teammates. Even guys that you didn't usually talk to in the locker room, like, kickers or somebody like that, this was your time to like mix and mingle with everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, looking back at your playing days there at State, at Coach Mullen, Coach Mullen has that soft voice, but when he gets excited, it kind of gets high pitched.
Yeah.
When he gets mad, does it get higher?
Yeah, I think so. Man, Coach Mullen, man, he'll go off now. Like he coaches hard. He's passionate about what he does.
Right. But is Coach Mullen one of those coaches that he eventually gets everybody? Like, sooner or later, you're going to get got. You can't get around it. He's going to get you.
Yes. And I thought I was one of those guys that were kind of like flying under his radar.
Right.
And
so what happened? There's a story there. What happened?
Yeah. So I was a freshman on the scout punt block team.
Okay.
So Coach Mullen thing was the punt team would always be the first thing that we did every single day. Punt team.
Okay.
Okay. And so I was on the scout punt block team. And so, as a scout punt guy, you're kind of like a dummy for the big guys.
Right.
And so I'm a little guy and I'm like, hey, I know I got to take on these big guys and I really don't want to. It's a Tuesday practice or it might be a Wednesday practice. I don't want to run into these guys. And so, I step around them. Jay Hughes, don't be a coward. Jay Hughes, don't be a coward. Treat it like an FCA meeting.
Oh, wow.
And so,
wow.
And so that was kind of like one of the only times Coach Mullen just kind of got on to me,
Right.
Me and him have a pretty good relationship, and so, I love Coach Mullen, man.
What's a funny moment that he had out there on the field? Did he always kind of like say the same thing when he got mad? When he used the same term or something? Basically, did you guys mock him afterwards in the locker room when he wasn't around? I had a coach one time. He used to just say, "You guys are terrible." He would start 20 sentences and he would just stop like, "You guys are terrible. You guys go. You're just terrible. You're terrible." Of course, every time he walked away, we would always snicker and laugh. You're terrible. You're terrible. What was that with like Coach Mullen and you guys in the locker room?
It was so many things, and that's the thing about it. You never knew what was going to be said between Coach Mullen, Chris Wilson, and John Hevesy. You never knew what you were going to get on a day-to-day basis. But he was always fun to be around, man. He had a whole bunch of stuff that he would say. A lot of stuff that I can't say on the show right now, probably. So.
That's right. Keep the FCC from calling us. I appreciate that, Jay.
Yeah.
So, guys, hold that thought because we are up against our last break, and when we come back, we are going to dive even further into the 2014 Dream season for Mississippi State, where they actually went to #1 in the country with Jay Hughes. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show right here on Tide 100.9. Citizens of Tuscaloosa and Northport, the summertime is here, and that means the college students have left for the summer. So now it's time for you guys to venture out and try Tuscaloosa's newest coffee shop, Strange Brew on the Strip. Now the temperatures are getting warmer outside, so they have a bunch of frozen drinks such as frappes, bushwhacker, frozen hot chocolates, smoothies, as well as gelato and ice cream for all of your cooling off needs this summer. You can find them at 1101 University Boulevard, right there on the strip at the University of Alabama. You can also follow them at Strange Brew Bama on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for all of the latest information about Strange Brew Coffee House. Go by and see them today and tell them the Stingray Show sent you.
Hello, SEC fans in Tuscaloosa. Welcome back to Tide 100.9. You're listening to the Stingray Show. Stephen Ray and Heath Hopkins. Our guest tonight, former Mississippi State player Jay Hughes and captain of that Bulldog team. And Jay, you're telling us earlier that you're coaching now at Brennan High School. You spent some time with the Rams. I wanted to dive into that. I know you didn't spend too long there in the NFL, but, you know, we always hear about high school kids coming to the SEC, and we say, you know, what's the biggest difference? They say speed. But when you talk to SEC guys that go into the NFL, they say, what's the biggest difference? And they say speed. And that always blows my mind when I hear that, because in the SEC, you see speed every Saturday. You know, but talk about that big jump. Is it a bigger jump from the SEC to the NFL than it is from high school to the SEC? I mean, talk about that speed and that jump and just all the biggest differences there from the SEC to the NFL.
Yeah. The jump from playing, you know, college football in the SEC into the NFL, the speed is almost the same, but, you know, it only takes one wrong step, you know, for a guy in the NFL to beat you. And, you know, in my position playing safety, you know, most of the time I would be just reading the quarterback.
Right.
And so just one wrong step with reading that quarterback in the NFL, and the ball, you know, is already thrown, you know, it's already run. The game, it speeds up really fast. It's really fast.
Right.
Wow. So one misstep or just any kind of small hiccup or anything, second guess anything, I mean, you're burnt, right?
Right. And,
Wow.
you know, playing safety, you know, they line you up about 20 yards deep, you know, and I was playing for Greg. I was under a defense that was coached by Greg Robinson, who was with the New Orleans Saints,
Right.
for a while. And so most of his defenses were, you know, press man at the corner, deep safety, blitz. And so I was that deep safety, and so, you know, I had the responsibility, and I was a faster guy. You know, I ran 4.54 at my pro day, and so I had to play from sideline to sideline, sitting directly in the middle of the field. And so you don't really have a whole lot of time to think. You know, you have to think about, hey, is this a run play or is this a pass play? Is the quarterback looking to my left? Is the quarterback looking to my right? Do I need to kick slide this way, or can I crossover run and go ahead and get there? You know, so it's a lot of different things that you have to process in a split second.
Nanoseconds.
Right. Yeah.
So, Jay, let's go back to the college football, your time there at Mississippi State in the dream season of 2014. The Auburn game. College game day was in town for the first time in Starkville. Talk about the hype that week leading up to the number 3 versus number 2 matchup versus Auburn, and especially having college game day on hand for the first time.
Yeah. We had a chip. We had a chip on our shoulder the entire season. We knew. I think the year before Auburn had won the national championship, if I'm not mistaken, with Nick Marshall.
Yeah.
And so we knew that, you know, they were going to be talented. We knew that they were going to, you know, be chirping at us, but we also knew who we were. You know, we knew the work that we had put in. We had leadership set in place on the team. We had a leadership committee. The leadership committee was responsible for making sure that, you know, everybody was ready to go as far as from a mental aspect. And so we came into that game, we were fired up. We knew that it would be a big game. And so we just came out there and started making plays, you know. We had Dak out there, so we always figured if we had, you know, if Dak was on the field, we had a chance to win.
Jay, you brought up the name, and I'm glad that you did. What's your favorite Dak story? Whether it be on the field, off the field, something that he did in practice that like, wow, or just something that was funny. What's your favorite Dak story?
Oh, my favorite Dak story was that he is a guy that practices retention. He retains.
Okay.
And so his thing is that after Tuesday, there's no more releasing, if you understand what I mean. And so he uses that to have a level of focus and a level of power or like drive. And so that's one thing that that stuck out to me with him. And another thing about him, man, he was in the cold tub every day after practice, and
Really?
sometimes he would be the only guy in there. He'd just be standing in there by himself. But that just goes to show you, how what kind of leader he was, what kind of person, what kind of player he was. But he was just that dedicated to the game.
Now, it's almost been a decade since that season, but I believe there was one Stephen Stingray Ray that was kind of came to fame during that time. And with that, what were you guys doing in the locker room at practice, after practice, or whatever? Whenever he would drop one of his rants, one of his videos, I mean, were y'all texting it to each other? Were y'all laughing?
Yeah, we would. We would
put it up on the big screen.
Around, right? We would just text it around to each other, like, "Look at this! Like, watch this! Do you see this?" And it was funny, man. It was I think one day they might have airdropped it during a team meeting or something like that, because we all had iPads when we watch film, and so somehow all the iPads got linked together, and you had guys in there sending all kind of messages, like all kind of stuff, joking on each other, talking about coaches and everything, and so they dropped that video in there, and everybody started laughing. We had a good time.
That's awesome,
funny,
man. So, Jay, I've got to ask you about the Auburn game. You got it started with the first pass for Auburn, an interception that you returned for 18 yards that ultimately set up the first touchdown of the day. What happened on that play as you remember it, the interception that you took back 18 yards?
You know what? It's the same play that I tore my Achilles on.
Oh, wow.
So it was the same coverage that I tore my Achilles on. Same scenario. I'm playing safety. Of course, we got two high safeties. One is supposed to come down and one is supposed to rotate up. And I was a safety coming down again. I think Ryan Brown ended up tipping the ball at the line. So it was a tip ball. And so it's kind of like, when I saw the ball coming, it's kind of like a knuckleball coming, like it was moving in slow motion. The ball was turning like this right here because it had been tipped. And so just to make sure I caught it, I caught it like a punt, instead of catching it with my hands, just to make, and I knew it was important moment in the game, and I knew in this type of game that big plays would matter. And so I made sure I secured that catch, and they joke with me about it all the time. It's like, they tell me that I can't catch, but I caught that one.
Right.
So, I guess I can.
I guess everyone thought on the team it was going to be a good day. It's like, even Jay's catching the ball, yeah.
So, Jay, I've got a quick follow-up to that. The Auburn game win propelled y'all to number 1 in the country, which you remained there for 5 straight weeks.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like going around campus, and especially there in the football complex, knowing that you guys were the number 1 team in the country?
Mm-hmm. Well, during that time, we weren't satisfied with just being number 1.
Right.
We knew that anybody could beat us at any moment. We knew that we were playing in the SEC. We still had to play Arkansas. And so, our leadership, just again, our leadership, I think that's one thing that the transfer portal is like hurting college football right now is
Mhm.
because guys are coming in and out, and these teams aren't really developing that leadership that it takes to really win a championship. But throughout that season, I can't remember what you asked me, but
What it was like around the campus and in the locker room at the football complex, knowing that y'all were the number one team.
yeah, everybody, they'll love you, when you win. They'll hate you when you lose, and so at that moment, we had already been through the 6-6 seasons. We had already been through the 8-5s. We had already been through, losing all these games, and so it just goes back to say, that we were still hungry at that moment.
Mhm.
We knew that, we were getting a lot of love, and that was, a really big buzz, around Starkville. But then again, you had Ole Miss. They were also number two. And I think at one moment they had us and Ole Miss as number two in the nation. We were like, we'd rather be number three than be tied up with number two.
Right.
And so,
And how crazy is that? You had a great line at the beginning of the show talking about the people that you're usually like or most like, or the ones you dislike the
right,
most. You use something along the lines of like that. And that kind of comes into play right there. Of
right.
all
Let's
the teams to
let's
be
put
tied, if
these
you
two
guys were tied,
Mississippi schools together.
yeah, if you were tied with Michigan State, you don't care.
Right.
If you're tied with Oregon State, you don't care. If you're tied with Texas or Oklahoma, you don't care. But
Right.
Ole Miss, it just made everybody mad on both sides.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
this is our
that was
time, and you're still making me split it with these jerks.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
So later that season, once again, the Crimson Tide of Alabama unfortunately stood in Mississippi State's way of playing in Atlanta again. What do you feel ultimately happened in Tuscaloosa on that day in 2014?
We waited too late. We waited too late to try to come back and make plays. We waited too late to realize that we could play with these guys.
Okay.
So we had already made mistakes in the first half, and by the time second half comes around, we don't have much. We don't have enough time left to make a big enough run to win the game. Blown coverages in the first half, penalties. I think Josh Robinson got a safety. May have been an intercept. I'm not sure, but that's ultimately what happened. We waited too late to realize that we're actually supposed to be on this field right now.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I heard a crazy saying one time, and I forgot what NFL player said it. It might have been Danny Don Meredith, that was the longtime analyst there on Monday Night Football, but talked about a game where you feel like you should have won or should have been better in it. You just started off so bad, and the losing team's like, this is the kind of game I wish we could just go drink a 6-pack and go out there and play this game again. And that line always fascinated me, because you're like, man, if we could turn around and play this game again, we would whoop them. We would beat them, or we'd be better, but was that kind of game for you guys? Like, man, I can't believe we just let ourselves down. I wish we could just start this day over again.
Yeah. And honestly, we were heartbroken after that game, because it almost felt like all the work that we had put in through the off season, through all the hot summers and all the stuff, all the leadership stuff, guys getting in fights just because, everybody's so passionate, everybody's going hard. We felt like, all of that had kind of went down the drain with that loss. And so that loss kind of, I would say it was kind of I don't want the tipping point of the season, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so after that, I don't think we had a whole lot of juice left. After that loss, but we knew that what we had already done was something that had never been done, at Mississippi State.
Right.
And so that was something that, we can hang our hats on, something we can be proud of, something that people, Mississippi State fans could be proud of.
So a few weeks later, you guys played arch rival Ole Miss in a game of the ages because earlier that season y'all were both ranked in the top 5. Jay, how nasty was that game on the field between the players? And do you have a story that you can share with us from the 2014 Egg Bowl, please?
Yeah, I had a girlfriend that was going to school at Ole Miss. I think her another
I like
guy.
how you said had.
Yeah, had. And so I think she had a boyfriend or something that went to Ole Miss, and so he was kind of heckling me the whole game. He figured out where I was on the sideline. He was kind of heckling me the whole game. But
wow,
yeah. And so yeah, it was a nasty game. It was a lot of trash talking, a lot of cheap shots. But that's what you get when you play rivalry games. I mean, that's kind of how they present it to us, the coaching staff. That's kind of how they present it to us when we play these games. Whether you're playing for Alabama, whether you're playing for Auburn or Michigan State, the tone changes when it's rivalry week. So, ultimately, same thing. They came out, they made plays, they were fired up, they knew they were on their own turf, they had home field advantage. We came out flat. We were flat that day. We were soft, and ultimately we got exposed. And I think we ended up making a few plays towards the end of the game. But again, this was a moment where time isn't on our side. We kind of ran out of time to be able to make a run at the end of the game.
So Jay, how disappointing was it for you as a player and for the team as well to cap off that season with another loss down in Miami in the Orange Bowl?
Oh man, this is a game that we actually thought that we could win. And not saying that we didn't think that we could beat Alabama or didn't think we would beat Ole Miss. I'm just saying that the belief changed as the game went along. But we came into this game fired up. We did have a coaching change on defense. I think Jeff Collins left and ended up going to University of Florida.
Yeah.
And so that left us with Coach Townsend as our defense coordinator, and we love Coach Townsend.
Right.
But the mood just changes. I mean, your defensive coordinator leaves. You're about to play against a triple option offense. Where you're going to get cut blocks every single play. SEC teams don't run the triple option, so we had never seen it before. We thought we were prepared, but there's no way to prepare for the triple option in practice because the guys that are on the scout team aren't the guys that play for Georgia Tech.
Right.
So, that was kind of a learning curve there. But ultimately, man, I think that season, ultimately we had a great season. Unfortunately, we weren't able to finish it off.
Right.
But I think what we did accomplish says a lot about the people that were at the school at that time, the people that were on the team at that time.
Right.
And I love everybody. I wouldn't trade it in for the world.
Jay, I got two questions for you to wrap up, and they're both fun questions. As we do this little video interview right now, I know a lot of you are listening to us on the radio, but when we do record the show, we do it by video. I see all these books behind you, and I'm a big reader myself. What book are you currently reading, or what's your all-time favorite book?
The book I'm currently reading is called The Prophet by this guy named Khalil Gibran.
Okay.
Just started it. I'm kind of more of a informational fiction kind of guy.
Okay.
So I'll read a little information and I'll read a little fiction as well. My all-time favorite book. I like the Robert Greene, the 48 Laws of Power book. Now I haven't had a chance to finish it completely. I just kind of go chapter by chapter, just reading, the title of the chapter and just reading what he's talking about in the chapter. But yeah, that's probably one book that I refer back to the most.
Okay. All right. And my second question is, you're making a career in football. You came from a football family. Your dad's been in college coaching for a while, and been on staffs at all the schools in Mississippi, it seems like. With that being said, when was your first time that you got to meet Coach Mike Leach, and what is the craziest conversation or funny story that you can share with us?
Well, the first time I met Coach Leach, I was just visiting, my dad in the office. And he said, "Have you met Coach Leach?" And I said, "No." Well, let me take you down to meet him. And so I got a chance to meet the pirate.
Right.
And he seemed like a well-mannered guy. Seemed like a really good guy.
Is his office crazy?
It's not too crazy. I didn't get a chance to look around as much as I probably wanted to.
Right.
Yeah, Coach Leach, man, he I think my dad really loved him.
Yeah.
I think he learned a lot from him as well. The one thing that was funny about it was I think you remember Coach Leach got in trouble for what he posted on Twitter.
Right.
With the I can't remember, what, something with a noose or something like that.
Yeah, it was the wife talking about quarantine. She made him this new necktie or something.
Right.
It was his wife knitting together a noose. Yeah.
Right. And so it was funny to me because my dad was the one that had to kind of come in and say, "Hey, Coach Leach, this is this may be why everybody may be kind of offended by this."
Wow.
And so they always kind of use, my dad to, hey, look, let's try to understand this. Let's get a better understanding about this.
Right.
And so that was funny to me. So,
and of course, Coach Leach didn't mean it that way, but you can't tell what other people interpret when they see things.
Correct.
Right.
And of course, we live in a society that everybody's waiting to be offended by something.
Correct.
So, but yeah, I completely see where your dad was the messenger.
Yeah.
But did your dad ever share any funny stories with you about Coach Leach, or when you met him, did Coach Leach go into crazy conversations about asking random things? Because we've always heard he immediately starts asking questions about you. He wants to know about you.
Well, he didn't really ask me anything per se. He was just, asking, "Well, you're a coach, right?" So, I told him where I was coaching and, what I was doing. And he was saying, "Well, you come from some good stock. Your dad's a good man." And I'm pretty sure my dad probably has many funny stories about Coach Leach. I think they actually went recruiting together at one point.
The stories your dad could tell about speeding tickets with Coach O and in the car with Coach Leach.
Right. And one thing I will say, and I'll end it on this. Kylan Hill. You guys remember Kylan Hill, right?
Yes.
And so, they said Kylan Hill was kind of a hothead. And so they said my dad was like, one day, Kylan Hill, he was going off after practice. I don't know what he was going off about, but he was just hollering. He was mad. And then and he said, I looked over at Coach Leach. He said Coach Leach was just looking at him. Yeah, so he was just looking at him like, look at this crazy dude. Do you see this crazy joker right here?
Right.
Making a fool of himself. But yeah, I hope Callan don't get mad at me for telling that story.
You're fine. Well, Jay, I've got 3 short questions left for you. The first one is, in January of 2015, you were chosen to attend the NCAA convention. Please tell us what that's about and how you were chosen for it.
I was actually surprised that they chose me. Because they only chose 3 athletes out of the entire SEC. Diamond DeShields was the basketball player at Tennessee, women's basketball player at Tennessee. And there was also a baseball player from Florida, and then there was me. And so we all flew to the convention, and we kind of understood what our job was, but we really didn't know what we were there for. We knew we were student athlete liaisons, or to represent the student athletes. But ultimately, what we were doing is that we were pushing the for players to receive more compensation. And that was one thing Coach Mullen explained to the team was, hey, Jay is going to the convention to fight for you guys. And so that was ultimately what that was about. And I think it kind of led us into the whole NIL thing just by us being there, having a voice, pushing through that legislation.
Gotcha. Okay. And for someone who played college football there at Mississippi State, how special was it to have your dad on the sidelines for every game coaching?
It's a surreal moment, a lot of guys don't, a lot of people aren't even raised by their dad,
Right.
And I got a chance to work with my dad, and it was, and he didn't take it easy on me. He coached me just as hard as he coached everybody else. If anything, I wasn't able to get away with some of the things that everybody else was able to get away with. And so just having him on the sideline just gave me kind of this sense of security, this sense of hey, I got somebody in my corner to fight for me. Even though, everything that he would always tell me that, hey, everything you did at Mississippi State, man, you did on your own. I didn't go in the meeting and be like, hey, this is my son. Hey, I'm vouching for him to do this or do that. We need to make him the captain. He said, I did everything on my own. So that just, let me know that, hey, he was watching me, he was supporting me, he was behind me in whatever that I did.
And Jay, we will end on a fun question. What is your favorite Dan Mullen story to tell people?
Favorite Dan Mullen story. So
that many, huh?
Yeah, it's that many. It's that many. Most of them are. Oh, this is my favorite.
Okay.
So Matt Bayless is our strength coach. He's a strength coach at Notre Dame now, I think.
Right.
And so they set up cameras during training camp or summer workouts in the locker room. No, not in the locker room, in the weight room. So they set up cameras. And so they're counting, how many reps guys are doing. Are you doing the amount of reps that you're supposed to be doing, or are you cutting reps? And so they set these cameras up, and we all get in the team meeting. We don't know what's about to happen. So they pull up the film from the weight room. And so you got Darius Slay was the guy that got caught on camera skipping reps. And Coach Mullen is just going off and off and off and off, and he's snapping. Coach Hevesy is in there, cussing up, and everybody's silent. The whole team is silent, like, oh my God, I can't believe they caught us all cheating reps. Who else was in there? Nico Whitley was in there. Cameron Lawrence was in there. Everybody got caught on camera doing something, the wrong way. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be doing this right here. What? And so after the meeting, he calmly says, y'all got 5 minutes. We're going straight to the hill. So we went to the hill that we always run in Starkville. And then he lined us up at the bottom of the hill, and he would say, send them.
Wow.
Coach Bayless would blow the whistle, and he just kept doing it. And guys were falling out. Guys were, throwing up. We had to do a farmer's carry. You had to carry somebody up the hill. I think Dak may have told a story how he had to carry an offensive lineman up the hill.
Oh, jeez.
And he was notoriously known for just starting the whole practice over. If it wasn't right, start the whole practice over. Start back at stretch, and eventually we would get it right. But yeah, that's probably my most fondest memory of Coach Mullen, just snapping in those meetings
Right.
and just
So,
going out.
Funny.
Jay, did you cut reps that day?
I don't know. I don't know if Stingray. I might have. I was in the weight room. I didn't really become a weight room guy until my sophomore, junior, senior year.
Gotcha.
That freshman year was hard for me, man. I remember during my freshman year summer workouts, I first got there. I said, man, I'm about to quit. I'm gonna go to the military.
Right.
Real quick, Jay, you've mentioned this name a couple of times on the show, Nico Whitley, and Nico was a fun player to watch.
Mhm.
Nico looked like he talked a lot of trash and had fun doing it.
Yeah.
Did you ever ask him what he said to Bo Wallace after that Egg Bowl when in overtime when Bo is laid on the ground? Nico comes up and he says something to him. You can pull the highlight up on YouTube or anywhere. But did you ever ask him what he said, or did you hear what he said?
I didn't hear what he said. This was the year I tore my Achilles, so I wasn't on the field. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't something that we probably could repeat on the show.
He wasn't telling him what he's going to wear to Sunday school on Sunday, right? What clothes he's going to wear.
Hey, a quick follow-up to that. Jay and I actually did a video over in Starkville called the Bulldog Flashback when I was doing my rant stuff. And I asked Jay that question, and then Jay just slowly and coolly turns to me and says, Stingray, there's no way I can say that on camera.
Yeah. And Nico, man, Nico was a guy, man. He probably didn't do all the reps. He probably didn't do everything right. He probably didn't do, everything coach asked him to. But when it came time to make a play,
oh yeah,
he was always going to have his hands on the ball. I didn't know, one thing that I learned about him was that, he played his entire senior season with slightly torn ACL.
Wow.
And playing safety, playing our position with a torn ACL is
right.
not easy to do, man. So, his pain tolerance level was so high, man. He was fun to play with.
Well, Jay,
with a torn ACL, it hurts to change the remote on the TV. It hurts to blink. It hurts to breathe.
Yeah.
Right.
Torn ACL is not anything fun to play with, and he played the entire season with a torn ACL. That's amazing.
Well, Jay, look, man, we have thoroughly enjoyed this, and we hope that we've not taken up too much of your time during this interview. And if you would, please feel free to give a shout out to anything, and especially tell the people that might be Mississippi State fans here in Tuscaloosa where they can follow you on social media.
I'd just like to give a shout out to my parents for always being my support system. Whatever I wanted to do, whether it was playing music or whatever I wanted to do. And also my kids and the coaching staff at Brandon High School. Hoping that we have a great season this year. If you guys are able to catch any games, y'all can catch our games on BrandonBulldogAthletics.com. You can find us there. My Instagram handle is JKhalil, JYKHALIL. That's my middle name. And you can follow me there. I usually only post just music stuff. I'm a guitar player, Stingray, so I'm really into the music. I like the music, and so music and football is my thing. And I really appreciate you guys having me on the show. I appreciate the opportunity. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, Jay, hopefully during the football season we can have you back on to break down some defensive stuff, my friend.
Okay. I can do that.
Yes, sir.
All right, Jay, I want you to break down what's on your iPod. What have you been listening to lately? What's been on your phone that you've been playing?
Man, I got a lot of stuff, man. I'm a sponge when it comes to the music. And some stuff that I recently listened to is I've been listening to some Aerosmith.
Okay.
The old Beatles stuff. I like the BB King stuff. I like the I'm an old school guy, Marvin Gaye, Motown type of deal. So yeah, I'm into that, man. Stuff like that. Guitar heavy songs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Jay, look, man, thank you so much, and we will definitely do it again soon, my friend. Have a wonderful summer.
Yes, sir. You too.
Thank you.
Take care, Jay.
Yes, sir.
Summertime is here, folks, and that means cookouts at the lake, at the pool, summer barbecues, and you need to stop in and see my friends at South's Finest Meats. They have a wide variety of meats, fruits, and vegetables, including pork ribs, butts, fresh ground hamburgers made daily, lots of varieties of smoked sausage, everybody loves sausage, fresh hand-cut steaks, and chicken. You can check them out at 3201 10th Avenue or their Cottondale location at 6405 University Boulevard East. They are definitely looking forward to serving you. Well, Heath, that is going to wrap up a phenomenal interview there with Jay Hughes. We want to thank him immensely for joining us. And hopefully, like I said, we did not take up too much of his time because he is a very busy person with coaching there at Brandon High School in Jackson.
Yeah, the coaching profession at any level, it takes a lot of time. And, I don't care if you're volunteering for, your kid's rec league team in any sport. It's going to take some time.
Yeah.
And so with that, Jay mentioned it earlier in the show, talking about the work-life balance of a high school coach compared to college coach. Coaching college football just consumes you. And I think Jay's still considering that. I think he'd be excellent. His father was an excellent coach and still is an excellent coach there at Mississippi State. But, you look at what high school coaches do, and I just want to break this down, Stephen, for all of our listeners, and I'll be very short with it. Coaches are just like teachers as well. They got to get to school early. They got parking lot duty. This is at the high school level. They got to do parking lot duty. And then they got to give up their lunch because they got lunchroom duty. And then after school's over, so let's just say you start your school at 7:30. Well, they're probably there at 6:45, if not 6:30.
Right.
And then, they're doing all that. And then they're getting out of school around 2:30. Well, now they've got football practice.
Oh, yeah.
And so now it's 4:30-ish, 5 o'clock. And then the coaches are meeting, and then they're going over film and things. And so, he got there at 6:30 in the morning, and he's probably not leaving until 7 o'clock at night. That's a 12-and-a-half-hour day. And that's at the high school level, and he chose that for the work-life balance. That's crazy. How many of you guys are working 12-hour days?
Well, guys, on that note, we got to sign off here on Tide 100.9. We hope that you guys have thoroughly enjoyed it with former Mississippi State safety Jay Hughes. We will be back tomorrow on Wednesday evening with yet another Stingray show. And Heath, before we get out of here, any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, summer's here. Thoroughly enjoying it. You got regional and super regional baseball. We're wrapping up regionals with from last weekend. We got super regionals this weekend. And hey, look, 2 wins away from Omaha. There's so many great storylines out there. And guess what, Stephen? We're on the countdown with college football closely approaching us. We're approaching 90 days. 3 months away. 3 months away.
So, guys, on that note, we are going to sign off. We hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday, a wonderful Wednesday. We will see you back here after Ryan Fowler tomorrow night, right here on Tide 100.9. And Heath, let's go ahead and say it to bring out the Stingray show. We
are out.
Booyah!